All right. New week, new podcast to talk about. So this week it was about, they're talking about different publishings about reviews of social skills curricula, which for autistic students. And they talked about two big reviews. The first one was school based skills interventions, and let me pull it up here, by the Bellini one. And some things that they talked about was it didn't demonstrate um, effectiveness in their methodology. The review didn't account for the future after observations had ended in the studies. It did take place between 1980 and 2005. 55 studies were reviewed. And the results, and I quote, they rated from very effective to not very effective at all, with the conclusion of low to questionable results. Not very good for different curricula to help out autistic students learn social behaviors. They did say that the best curricula took place in classrooms rather than isolated lab settings. So there is something to that. And they did also find out there was no correlation between the number or length of sessions and the effectiveness of that curricula. And again, their final conclusion, meh at best. I thought that was pretty funny. The second one, though, is they reviewed social skills manuals that gave concrete curricula to teaching effective social skills and social skills learning. And they only did the meta-analysis only looked at manuals that were actually peer-reviewed with provided materials like lesson plans, flashcards, that kind of stuff. And it had to be available to buy, quote unquote, off the shelf. No dime store manuals from Walden Books, for those that know what Walden Books was. And of the 25 manuals, only 4 met the criteria for good. That's definitely something. And then they talked about 2 different programs that they knew pretty well. The first one was the social competence. It was the social competence interventions, and it was used by some high school students on a Netflix show. The students met once a week, meeting across 14 weeks, and the goal was to establish friendships and decrease loneliness. And one of the things that they noticed that wasn't talked about in the analysis was not discussed were the results of the students' satisfaction and students' desire to establish friendships and decrease loneliness. And as a final conclusion of like how I felt about this podcast, I will now look a little bit closer on which ones I chose, because this one was not interesting to me at all. Not because it wasn't good information, but because I haven't basis enough in this knowledge of study to really understand what they're talking about on a deep level. And I'll be doing a better job of finding one next week that talked about something more concrete that I could probably use in my classroom. I can't really talk to my students about, oh, this one study studied 25 studies and told me which study was the best. Funny like that. And sorry for the face. For some reason, I decided to turn 15 again and decided to break out and get ingrown hairs and, get all that kind of fun stuff you get. And hopefully that clears up and I look better for you guys. Have a great week.